G'day, Stu from UAVfutures here, and today, well, does Chuck Norris have a theme song? I don't know. Anyway, what we're going to be looking at today, this is the Chuck Norris approved frame. No joke, that's what it says on the website. But this is the Norris from Catalyst Machine Works, and this is their premium 5-inch racer. Now, Catalyst Machine Works, for those of you who don't know, or if you're just getting into the hobby, have some of the best customer service and also some of the best quads available out there right now. I'm sure that, you know, if you've dealt with Catalyst Machine Works, drop it in the comments below. They really are a top-notch premium company that, look, I'm not sponsored by them in any way or anything, but I do hear some fantastic stories about their customer service. Anyway, enough rambling. Stuart, what is this badass looking quad right here? Well, this is the Norris. It's a premium 5-inch super light racer. So what we're going to do, we're going to stick it on the bench, break it down, have a look at how it comes, why it's so light, because you guys are never going to guess. Just, you know, have a guess in the comments. What do you think the weight of this thing is? And no cheating as well. And yeah, we'll break it down, have a look at its components and what makes this thing so special. Anyway, enough rambling from me. Let's stick this bad boy Norris on the bench and get started. Alrighty, so here it is, everything I want to talk about in the video. So this is everything for the Norris frame, and I've got a few things. You know, I've got the drone here, the actual pre-built bind and fly one. I've got some really cool camera mounting and FPV mounting options that I want to talk about as well with the antenna. I've also got the pretty dope looking canopy as well, which, you know, is going to be absolutely fantastic. And then I've just got some of the other little extras, which, look, honestly, we can get out of the way now. You get a pretty cool rubberized, which is important, Velcro strap. You've got some little spare parts, which we'll talk about when we're talking about the actual frame. And then you've also got some side camera parts. Now, the reason this is so special is because, look, this is first and foremost, this is like an absolute racer's frame. I don't think this is an acro frame whatsoever. And the special part is for me, look, we'll come back to these canopies in a minute. The special part for me is how much does this thing weigh? Look, I don't mind a light quadcopter, but I feel like they do feel a little bit funny in the air. I prefer to put that extra. I want a quadcopter to be as light as possible, but mean you can put a larger battery on there so you can really have some capacity. And in the past, I haven't liked things like this is our twig right here. So what we're gonna do right now, how much do you think this bad boy weighs? So I'm gonna weigh this one first as a bit of a comparison. This has the same size motors on here, so these are 2206 motors right here, 2600 kV. So let's turn our scales on. So this is going to be the twig. Now, if you haven't seen my twig review, I'll leave a link to this up here. So that's coming in at 269 grams. So thanks very much. We'll put that to the side. Notice that this has a different FPV antenna on as well. It's just got a little dipole. You know, and does this thing look fragile? To me, I don't want to fly a quad if it's going to break all the time. So look, this twig looks really fragile. This Norris frame, which, you know, Chuck Norris was a pretty badass dude. How much is this going to weigh? 250, what? It's actually lighter? Are you kidding me? And it looks like a really solid frame. So look, off the bat, I'm super excited because this thing, same size motors, everything in here, probably more features, and this thing looks so much more robust, so it's absolutely blowing me away. How can they build a 5-inch racer that only weighs that much? That's absolutely crazy. So let's break it down. Let's have a look at the frame and then we'll go through, start at the outside in and have a look at some of the components. Now I'm going to take the props off right here because look, they're just going to get in the way in this video. So this one's actually designed, you can tell it's definitely made for speed because most of the time I don't fly these bi-props. I like to stick to tris. Get on there. There we go. I like to stick to the tri-props, but this bad boy right here, the bi-props are actually a little bit quicker in a straight line. So I think most racers, look, drop them in the comments down below, most professional racers would use some bi-blades. So you can tell this thing is absolutely designed for speed. Alright, props are off. I'm going to put the prop nuts to the side. So this is the get rid of that prop. This is the actual craft itself. So let's go through what we're going to do. We're going to measure the carbon, and the carbon in Catalyst Machine Works is top notch. There is, like, I would say it is up there with the best of the best. It's not the cheap Chinese carbon, and these guys definitely know what they're doing. So look, they have really, really good carbon over at Catalyst Machine Works. Very happy with that. So what we're going to do, let's measure it right now. It's made up of one solid base plate, and look, it is designed to spin 5-inch props. So the solid base plate is coming in at I think it's 3 mils thick. So there we go, it's 3 mils thick all across. And then the only other part, really, it's really, really simple. You've got your two little cross beams right here. So I think they're 4. Yeah, they're coming in at 4 mils thick. And then on the top, we've got our top plate, which I think is 2.5 mils. Oh no, my mistake. It's coming in at 1.5 mils on the top. So look, overall, that's pretty amazing to have that sort of thickness of the carbon, some 4mm, 3mm. I think that's going to be absolutely fine, and to keep the weight down to that absolute minimum is just crazy. Now, of course, if you were going to have a frame called the Norris, you couldn't just have a badass frame. You would definitely need some other parts that go with it, and looking at all the parts on here, these are some of the most premium parts you can get. So look, if you wanted to say, Stuart, what's a bind and fly race? Because you can buy one that's just like this. This is how my one came. What is a bind and fly racer that has some absolute kick-ass, top-notch components? I just want to jump in with some of the best stuff. I would say, look, the stuff on this craft, you really can't do any better. So we've got some Brother Hobby returner motors right here. These are 2306, so absolutely massive motors right there, and they're super light as well. So I can't believe they're getting it. These things should be absolute powerhouses. I've got the 26,000 kV version, so they should be an absolute rocket. And I should mention too, Catalyst Machine Works had some really good team pilots out there, so shout out to them. I've watched a lot of their videos in the past, and I know this bad boy's tuned to fly perfectly with these props, so I'm really expecting that this thing is going to be an absolute weapon in the air. Now, moving towards the middle, I don't think this frame or this sort of design would have been possible, say, 6 months or something ago. We've had some really good advancements in our FPV technology, and every single gram on this bad boy counts. So, at the front, and we're going to talk about some of these as well, we've got our FPV camera, so let's quickly go through the specs. So we've got our micro, a RunCam Swift 2 right there, so we're going to have an OSD. We've got a TBS Unify Pro, which is fantastic because, in my opinion, they're some of the best VTXs out there, although I don't like their channel changing selection part. That sort of drives me nuts watching the little blinking LED. On the back, we've got 2 spaces for our antenna, so we've got one of the micro FreeSky receivers in here, the XMs. To be honest, I looked everywhere on their website and I couldn't actually find out what FPV antenna this is. I don't know if it was the axial or something like that, because look, I looked everywhere and I couldn't find this exact one. But we will be talking more about FPV antennas as well. Flipping it open, you can see, so we've got our receiver in there. This one does come, crazy enough, I'll flash some pictures on the screen, with a Schizo race flight board. So this is going to be my first delve into race flight as well. And then on the bottom, we've got a 30 amp D-Shot Beal Heli SESC. Now, flipping it over, you know, this is pretty synonymous with Catalyst Machine Works, and I don't think it's just because, look, they sent me this one. I'm sure they do a fantastic job on all the ones they send out. We've got a big capacitor, nice there, built into our battery lead, so we shouldn't be getting any extra noise or voltage spikes. All the screws are Loctiter, which is nice. Even comes with a pre-bit of Velcro or whatever that M5 extra grippy sort of tape is right there. Now, another thing I am going to zoom into to have a look at the motors, because the motors are a big star of the show on this build. So let's zoom in. They're the Red Hulk motors, so we're going to zoom in just a little bit, and hopefully you guys can see this. Something that determines just how much power a motor can put out is determined by the space between the stator and the magnets. And if you look here, as I spin this around, there is like the smallest gap in there, which means it's going to have the most efficient transfer, so that I think these motors are going to be absolute little rocket ships. Now, something that most serious racers out there knows, look, everybody likes to set up their quadcopter just a little bit different. They find the things that work for them, and pilot skill is one of the biggest things that changes the outcome in the race. It is the most determining factor, so everybody flies their crafts a little bit different, and that's something I think the guys over at Catalyst Machine Works have been doing really well. They've been listening to their team pilots, and they've said, look, we want some customization. So we're going to go through some of the things you can do with this frame right here that it's not really available. You don't have those customizable options with some other frames. So the first part, you notice you've got these cross beams across the front. So look, you don't have to have them. I've got them right here. So if you want to, they don't go on the top, obviously they go underneath. But if you want to, you know, you can take these off and rock it without it. Now, a big bonus of these, I think there's 2. It does make the arms even stronger, but I do think that the arms in this way anyway, it's still going to be stronger than these, really fragile. I'm really not a fan of these like little arms like this. So a frame like this, it's going to be really strong anyway, and in a crash, if you come down and you land on this arm, look, a lot of it, usually it would snap here if it was going to snap anywhere, but by having this cross beam, it is going to spread some of the load over to this arm as well, so it's just going to really help maintain a durable quad. Now, with the quad so light, look, that was one of my biggest concerns. If it's so light, does that mean it's going to be really fragile? But, you know, I'm sure you guys can agree, looking at this thing, I think it's going to hold up pretty well. Now there's an extra added bonus right here, and you can see that comes in with my FPV camera. So if you're flying around, and I know this has happened to me in the past, the camera is pretty well protected, except I'm sure out of anything, the thing that kills my cameras is flags. So that might be up there. If you're flying along gates and everything gets caught up on the arms and it protects the camera, but if you're flying into a flag, it's going to go straight, smash, and just destroy your camera right there. So this little cross beam, not only is it adding strength to your arms, it's not going to really increase the drag as it cuts through the air too much because it's super thin, but it is going to also protect your camera in a full front-on crash with a flag. So I'm a big fan of that, and I like how you can just get some little spares as well. I think that's really, really handy. And look, worst comes to worst, because they're interchangeable, you could take the one off the back and put it at the front. And if you were trying to save every gram, you could totally take these off. Or even if I was just going to leave one, I would just rock around with the front one, because I think the likelihood of crashing into the back arms in a race anyway is definitely not as likely at the front. This is where all the impact usually comes, so I'd say you'd almost be safe to take this one off. And if you just wanted to keep replacing the front one whenever you broke it, then you've got two spares. Now I know some people out there are going to say, Stuart, but I don't like my FPV camera out there like that. It does look a little bit exposed. What can we do about that? And here's another great part about Catalyst Machine Works. So now I've actually got, here's one I prepared earlier. We've got a different top section. So what you have to do with a little printed TPU mount, I'm going to put these two side by side so you can see, you can actually recess your FPV camera back like that. It's going to be a little bit more protected. You are going to see the little edges of the frame, because that's just the way the lenses work with these when you're putting those RunCam micros in there. So you are going to see the little edges on the outside. But look, that's the price you pay. I like to have those options. Do I want to have it out the front where it's a little bit more exposed? Or do I want to have it much more protected, recessed in a lot more? It's going to be a lot better protected in a crash, but you might see some of this carbon in your FPV footage. Now the options don't stop there. So you can see at the back here, I've got this FPV antenna right here with this fantastic little printed 3D mount that's going to hold my antennas. I think that one's fantastic, but most people, they might not want to direct solder to their FPV transmitter or anything like that, so that might be a little bit too much for them. Luckily, look, you can get a bind and fly, like I mentioned, like you can get one just like this. Or if you're one of those people who, usually rocks a pigtail or something like that, you get this nice little mount at the bottom. Now what this is, this comes in at a 45-degree angle. I'm going to have to zoom in here, so I'm going to flash some pictures on the screen. It comes in and you actually get two options on how you want to mount a different well, actually you get three. So you get this standard way, which look, this is probably my favorite way. Or if you want to rock one of the larger antennas, and this is one's going to be a little bit heavier, you can see it comes in at a 45-degree angle. You zip tie it to the back underneath where your two antennas go right there, and then all the stress it's all going to be on the top of the coax up here. It's not going to be on your pigtail. You're not going to be snapping off anytime soon. Or look, there's even another option. If you wanted to unzip tie that, you can slide it up from the bottom. There's a little segment, we'll show you some pictures on the screen, and you can just have it going straight up in the air if that's what you prefer. So I like how you get so many options to mount your FPV antenna. This then is where we can have a look at this bad boy right here. So Stuart, what is this? Because honestly, that looks a little bit sinister. This is a really flexible piece of plastic. This is a 3D printed little canopy that if you wanted to, you could take this off and you can totally swap them over. Now, am I going to do that? No, probably not, because look, I do want to get you guys some nice HD footage. You guys always bag me out when I say HD. Now, something that makes this special with these builds, this part right here is the exact size of your middle stack. So when everything's pressed together, it's going to be actually really, really strong, really snug, and really secure. You've got the same sort of little option styles to put your FPV antenna out the back, so you can have it on 45 or straight. And, do I like the look of this thing? Yes, I think it looks absolutely fantastic. If I was going to go to a race, I would probably rock this bad boy. Am I going to put that on my Norris frame? No, not really, because I still look, I don't think it's designed ultimately for a GoPro, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But for me, I would find mounting a GoPro to this bad boy is not really going to do it justice. So for me, I'm going to stick it like this because I do want to get you some HD footage. But look, if you were just going to go to the races, I think this is a pretty fantastic idea you could put on there. You're probably going to be getting some better aerodynamics too when this thing's cutting through the air. So with all that said and done, let's have a look at some of the things that maybe I don't like, or I think some of the weaknesses of the frame. So number one, the thing about this quad is it really only has one purpose. It's going to be fast, it's going to be absolutely performance driven, and this is what I think most people would sort of take to the races. A craft like this will absolutely kill it when you take it to the field. versus something like the Chameleon, which look is a lot heavier. And if you've got the skills to pay the bills, I definitely think a quad like this is going to be fantastic. But it's not going to be the best for acro. So I don't think it's going to be good for acro because it's so light. And in saying that, you're probably also not going to do too well when you're carrying a GoPro. Look, it definitely can carry a GoPro, but it's not what it's designed for. It's designed to be super light, but also super strong. So look, I'm a big fan of the strength part. I think the lightness part is going to be great because look, I like my quads a little bit heavier, but what that actually means is I can put a bigger battery on this thing, draw more amps, go a little bit faster, pull a little bit harder. So I do think it's going to be an absolute rocket. And then the second thing, I would say maybe the price. Like this is not a poor man's FPV quadcopter. This is a bit of like the Rolls Royce. Everything you've got on here, like there is no budget parts on here whatsoever. I mean, like these, you know, red Hulk motors, the Runcam micros in here, D-Shot, BLHES, ESCs, and the Schizo race light. We've got the TBS in the back right there, and the frame itself and the actual carbon. Everything in here is really top notch. So you're going to be paying more than if, you know, you built one of the cheaper ones. Is it going to perform a lot better? Absolutely. Is it going to perform I guess the price difference? I guess that's up to you. It depends what you want to get out of your racers. One thing I do want to mention, something if you are going to buy something from Catalyst Machine Works, I do feel like they really are a family who looks after their customers. I've seen tons of threads online, and I'm sure, look, if you drop it in the comments below if you've had some positive experiences or negative experiences with Catalyst Machine Works, and I can almost guarantee, I'll put a little poll up here, have you heard good things about Catalyst Machine Works? So definitely look, if you have or haven't, you know, answer that little poll. And I think the results will speak for themselves because look, many people in the hobby speak really highly of them, and the build quality of this thing, it's about, you know, it's built really well by people who live and breathe the hobby and know exactly what they're doing. So all in all, I'm pretty excited. You know, we're going to have a super light racer that I can put a bigger battery on so I can keep the weight around what I like it. Going to be able to draw more amps. I think it's way more strength. It looks way stronger than some of these. I think that one might even have a broken arm or something actually. It looks way stronger than some of those little ones that only have this sort of stuff as the arm, which I'm not honestly the biggest fan of. It's super light, and it's honestly packed with some very serious performance. It's going to be really interesting to see how this thing handles the UAVfutures test track, because at the moment I'm ripping that Talon around. I absolutely love it. So you know, will this thing put it to the test, because it is significantly lighter than the Talon as well. Alrighty, so there it is. There's my part 1 review of the Norris frame, Chuck Norris approved, and I've got to agree, it definitely does look super badass, and I can't believe how light that is. Like around 100 grams lighter than the Chameleon or something like that. And look, traditionally I don't like super light quads because they just feel funny in the air, and also I question their strength in a crash or something like this. But this bad boy, like looking at, I think this is a really good mix between being strong and also being really agile as well when we're zipping around. So I can't wait to stick a battery on here, and this thing should absolutely kill it when it's flying around. Now, of course, with Catalyst Machine Works, they've got some fantastic, I guess, customer service options out there. They're a really cool company, and I'm sure that, look, there'll be a lot of people in the comments down below. I've heard a lot of good things about Catalyst Machine Works. You know, the carbon's fantastic, the choice of components in here, and also just the build quality is really top notch. So I'm going to say, if you're after like a racer that you can actually, I would say this is aimed at being a racer. You know, you want to go out and absolutely rip it around at some insane speeds. This thing is definitely going to go hammer and tongs for sure. I can't wait to take it out to the field, so that's what we're going to do in part 2, so stay tuned for that. We'll also hand it over to Grumpy Trev. And just a bit of a cheeky side note too, look, I'm pretty sure Catalyst Machine Works is going to be like, Stuart, what are you talking about? But I'm going to say, leave your best Chuck Norris quadcopter joke in the comments down below, and we should like push for Catalyst Machine Works to push it on their website somewhere. So when you're buying one of this, you can see like one funny Chuck Norris joke. Right now they're probably watching this review going, Stuart, what are you doing to us? But yeah, let's drop some Chuck Norris quadcopter jokes down in the comments below. Other than that, subscribe for more FPV related content, and as always, happy flying. Alrighty, so hopefully you guys enjoyed that video. Definitely subscribe if you're new to the channel and check out these videos, and I'm also going to leave a little link here to my Patreon page, because I've got some fantastic Patreon supporters and I like to give back to them as well. So if you want to join the UAVfutures family, there's things like bonus velcro straps, little bundles of FPV goodies and things like that that also get sent out. Anyway, happy flying.